I can't even compare where I was when I really started, actually before I started with Bob's teachings, and where I am now. I mean, that's not comparable. I was in a terrible spot because I was doing all kinds of jobs. I wasn't officially employed, and I was earning very, very little money, and I just didn't like my life, you know? I didn't like how I was operating. I didn't like, my lifestyle, just pure nothing. I was earning $150 to $200 per month, you know? Now I can't even compare it to what I'm doing right now, because today I can earn thousands of dollars sometimes in an hour. I can remember when I started in the consultancy training, I was totally broke, you know? And I was speaking with a coach here in the company, and he told me, okay, well, do you really want to do this? And I said, yeah, absolutely, I want to do that. And he said, well, let's get you started. And I started to complain like I don't have any money, you know? And he said, you don't need the money until you make a decision to do it. Once you make a decision, then you're going to find the money. And he told me the price, and I was like, okay, that's too much money for me. And I started to, calculate in my mind, okay, if I do this, if I do that, maybe I'm gonna be able to get into the training. And I told him, that was like 26 November, I can remember like yesterday, 26 November 2013. And I told him, let me get back to you by the end of the year. And he said, no, what are you doing? Like this is something that you really want. How long have you been living the way you don't want to live? And I was like, for too long time, too much time. And he said, well, why don't you make a decision to actually start it? Let's change it, and let's change it right now. And he said, here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna send you the video on Decision by Bob, and I want you to watch it every single day, and just watch it a couple of times today, and get back to me and tell me what you decided. And I was like that night I really didn't sleep, and I was out of my mind, and I made a decision that night that I'm gonna borrow the money. As a matter of fact, I heard Bob speaking in one of his videos. I don't care if you want to borrow money from your grandmother, or put it on the credit card, just do it, because this is going to be the best investment of your life. And I literally followed his words. I actually went to my grandmother, I borrowed the money from her savings, and I borrowed a card from my sister because I didn't have on my own. And I put my borrowed money from my grandmother to my borrowed card from my sister, and that's how I got started. I do think that absolutely everyone knows what they want. And I know that some people say that they don't know what they want, but I don't think it's true. Because when they say, I don't know what I want, what they're actually saying is, I'm too afraid to admit to myself what I really want, or they're so focused on their present results and circumstances, so that dream is buried deep down inside themselves and not getting to the surface. I remember I had a call with a guy, and he told me he's earning $50,000 per year. And I asked him, okay, well, what do you really want? And he said, I want to earn 75. And I told him, no, you don't. And he said, well, what do you mean? And I asked him, okay, well, I want you to imagine this. I want you to imagine that you have all the money, all the resources, all the help that you will ever need in order to accomplish whatever you want to accomplish. Under those conditions, what would you choose to go after? And he said, well, I would buy the house, I would buy the car for myself, for my sister, for my parents. My parents, for my parents, I will buy also the house, I will go on vacations around the world. And I asked him, do you think that 75 is gonna cover that? And he started laughing and said, no, absolutely not. So that's what we're actually doing is we're choosing too low, to go after too small goals, If we're not stretching, if we're not really getting outside of a comfort zone, we're never really gonna accomplish anything that we want. I love helping people. I really love seeing people change. I mean, that's something that it's really so powerful when you know that you are a part of someone else's change, of someone else's success in life. That's so fulfilling.
Check us out at ProctorGallagherInstitute.com for tips, tools, and resources.